Look at all my Pilates people. All right. So we're gonna start standing. This is kind of more of a gentle Pilates part 2 of last week, and then I'll switch it up for next week. But we're gonna start with our crossover like we did last week. So you're just crossing one ankle over the other, and then hanging down, letting that head be heavy. And I'll give you a side profile too. This front leg will be slightly bent, and your back leg should be as straight as possible. For those of you who might be a little bit more snug, you might be more up here. And then you're going to think about scooping that belly, rolling on up. And then we're just going to switch over to the other side. So uncross that leg, cross over to the other, chin to chest, being heavy. Letting that hip stretch out, letting that lower back stretch out. Nice. And then scooping that belly, restacking that spine. And then we're just going to repeat it. So back over to the first side, and then we're just going to add a little reach, that's all. So you're over. And you're going to take the same hand as the front leg and kind of put it wherever you can on that leg. And then, don't fall over, you're going to rotate up to the ceiling. Breathing. And then you're just going to switch it over to the other side. And if you do feel like you're going to fall over, you don't have to do the reach. I think it's nice. But I also can brace on the ground, and if you don't have that mobility, that might not be an option for you. Coming up, unpretzel yourself, re-pretzel yourself. And then we're just going to do it with the reaches on this side. So letting that head be heavy, letting that torso be heavy. And then rotating kind of towards that front leg. And then let that come down. And then rotating towards the back leg. And let that come down. Nice, taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, scooping up, rolling up. Nice. And then we're going to go into our dragons. So I'm just going to change so I'm fully on my mat. Letting your chin be heavy, we're just going to do a kind of a quick roll down just to get our hands down on the ground. And then when you find your hands down on the ground, you're just going to walk yourself out to a high plank, bending your knees as much as you need to for your body. Walking yourself out to that nice high plank. And then pick a side, any side, I don't care what side you start with. Bringing that foot as far forward as you can. And then you're gonna think about this back leg. I don't wanna relax. I want you really thinking about pulling up on your kneecap, engaging that quad, energy through it, energy out that heel. And then once you have energy through that leg, I want you to think about pushing those hips without compromising in that back leg, pushing those hips down to the ground. So for some of you, depending on where you're snug, you might get that stretch in the front of the hip. You might get a stretch on the inner thigh of this front leg. So this is a very slow dragon. We rarely do them this slow in class, but it's kind of it is nice to slow it down and focus on opening up those hips. Rotating towards that front leg. Really thinking about trying to get stacked wrist to wrist. And then putting that hand down. And then switching on over to the other side. Putting that hand down. And then just stepping back. So you're going to think about really loading through those arms. Shoulders away from your ears as you lift that foot back. Find that plank. Feel that plank for a second. And then step on over to the other side. So again, you're really thinking about energy in that back leg. I don't want to see relaxed back leg. I'm thinking about that hamstring and lifting up to the ceiling. Pulling up on that quad. I know we rarely cue that, but I do want energy through the front of your leg so that it straightens. And then you're thinking about trying to lower your hips once you have that energy through your leg. So I don't want anything relaxed and collapsing. It's almost like you have energy going out your head, your heel. Then rotating towards that front leg. Opening up that chest. Finding that wrist to wrist. Still having energy in that back leg. Putting that hand down, and then you can use this upper arm to kind of brace on this side to rotate away. And comes down. And then stepping back into that nice high plank. And then walking your hands back. So just starting out with a whole bunch of luxurious kind of dynamic stretches. None of which are Pilates, by the way. Planks are in Pilates repertoire, but that's about it. So standing, we're gonna do our deep squat twister. So now you're gonna be standing your wide athletic stance. You can be slightly turned out, that's fine. Thinking about dropping those hips. And then you're just kind of walking your hands around, right? So I'm reaching out to the front, I'm reaching to the side, I'm reaching through my legs, I'm rotating. And if you find a spot that you're like, wow, I really feel a stretch in my side body, or I feel a stretch in my hip, hold it for a second. So, you're just kind of walking yourself around, or as Michelle could describe this, kind of like you are playing Twister, right? Right hand, right hand on red, left hand on red, right foot on blue. And then coming center, let's straighten those legs. And then let's just let our head be heavy, let our torso be heavy. And then just getting a hamstring stretch with a wider athletic stance. And then once you're here, you can kind of, if you want to, you can keep your hands out on the ground, but you can also just fold at your elbows. Let the weight of your torso pull you down to the ground. Breathing into it. Seeing if you can get deeper in that stretch as you relax into that stretch. And then putting a slight bend in your knees. Roll it on up. And then once you're standing, you're going to heel to walk yourself in. Nice. And then we'll do one last roll down. That's going to take us all the way down to the ground. So again, I'm just going to adjust on my mat. Chin to chest. Let the head be heavy. So yeah, a little bit more, kind of like last week, a little bit more stretchy, a little bit more mobility. I would say more of an easy intermediate class than make everything burn, baby burn. And then walking yourself out. And then just bringing those knees down. Hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And then let's go into cat-cow. So you're going to really thinking about the top of your head and your coccyx as the two ends of your spine. And you're going to find those two ends of those spines reaching for each other as you pull up into that cat. Then they move away from each other, finding yourself a neutral spine. And then they find each other again as you move into your cow. Letting that chest be heavy, letting those shoulders pull away from your ears. And then again, scoop it up. And other way. Then we're going to do one more cat-cow, and then we're going to move into our lateral flexion with the spine. So finding that neutral spine again, the top of the head reaching away from the tailbone, and then they're going to reach towards each other. Let's go to the left side first. So my head's reaching to the side, my tailbone's reaching to the side. And then I'm gonna go neutral spine and go the other way. So now we're doing lateral flexion of the spine instead of flexion extension. And again, just tuning into your body, right? If you get into a position that you're like, wow, I feel a big stretch there, maybe you hold it for a little bit longer than what I'm giving you. That's okay. Take an extra breath and then catch up when you can. One more lateral flexion to each way. And then we're going to make our way to the back. Well, maybe we'll do a child's pose on the way. So sitting back into your heels, letting those arms reach forward. And again, if you have like a knee that doesn't like to bend or be squished or compressed, you can always come up and still get a nice stretch with the more of a 90-degree angle at your knee. And then I want you to take your fingertips and I want you to tent them. And it's almost like there's a string on your wrist and it's getting pulled forward. So you're tenting those fingers, but you're sitting back in those hips, getting that nice side body stretch. And then let those fingers relax. And then just wiggle yourself over to your back. So just going from your knees to your back. Could make you do like a whole side leg series to get there, but I won't. Not yet, at least. All right, so we're on our back, and we're just gonna start with pelvic tilts, which I always think is kind of a nice place to go back to, check in with. So if you tilt your pelvis up and you put more pressure in your coccyx, your lower back, right, is gonna be exaggerated in that arch. That's your 6 o'clock. And then if you tilt it the other way, thinking about your pubic bone pulling up into your ribs and you diminish and totally get rid of that space in your lower back, that's your 12 o'clock. So you're gonna go from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And the imagery is that you have the face of the clock on the back of your pelvis. I think most of you have taken my Pilates class, so I don't think that's a new concept for you. So we're going from 6 to 12. And as you're doing this, I just want you to pay attention to what's turning on to make this happen. So as you go into that 12 o'clock, are you using your heels and your hamstrings and your glutes a lot to make it happen? Which is fine. I just want you to tune into it. And then on like the next 6, I do want you to continue to find that big range of motion. But if you were using your legs a lot, try to let them relax and try to find more of it from basically your pelvic floor up, right? So if you were finding that you were digging your heels in, squeezing your glutes, and contracting those hamstrings, try to let that relax. Yes, I'm actually telling you not to squeeze your glutes. And let's go for 2 more. And hopefully what that does is it actually kind of helps you tune into those deep abdominal muscles a little bit more, which are going to help you with your upper ab curls and your hundreds and your ab series and, you know, pretty much any movement. And then let's move this into clocks just quickly because clocks feel good. So if you're pushed into 12 o'clock, you're going to kind of roll over to that left hip over to 3 o'clock. Down to your coccyx again, over to that right hip for 9 o'clock. And we're going to do 4 big circles in one direction. And I want this to come from basically that pelvic floor up. Try not to use your hips, your hamstrings, or your heels. I shouldn't say hips. Glutes, hamstrings, or heels. But try to make the biggest clock that you can so those legs can sway. And let's do one more in this direction. I'm getting all sorts of snap, crackle, pops. I don't know about you. And the other direction. And again, start thinking about connecting this with your breath. Maybe it's a nice big inhale as you kind of roll down and exhale as you come back up to your 12. Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe you're exhaling as you go down to your 6 and inhaling as you come up to your 12. One more in this direction. Nice. And then just finding neutral spine for a second. So just kind of coming to a still neutral position, feeling the heaviness through the balls of your feet, your heels, the back of your pelvis, the back of your ribs. And we're just gonna do upper ab curl. We're gonna start with our feet on the ground, and then we're gonna kind of make it a little bit more challenging. So taking a nice big inhale in, exhale, chin to chest, and I actually think about my arms reaching, right? My arms being attached to my shoulders, and my shoulders scooping, coming up as high as I can, checking in with that neck that I'm not holding tension. Taking a nice big inhale in, exhale, roll back down. And since we're doing a pretty basic variation of this, I want you, as we come up this next time, so chin to chest coming up, I want you to think about sending your pubic bone long through your legs to the wall in front of you, not pulling it in, right? So can you keep a little bit flatter on the back of your pelvis, come up a little higher. Take a nice big inhale in, and then exhale, roll back down. So on these ones, you're going to think about that pelvis staying neutral and the ribs coming up to meet your hips, but maybe not the hips coming up to meet your ribs, if that makes sense. And one more. Taking this into coordination, which is actually a reformer exercise, but we're going to bring one leg up into tabletop, the other leg up into tabletop. And then we're just adding basically a leg gesture once we come up. So if for some reason that's too much, you can always stay in tabletop. So taking that nice big inhale to prepare, exhale, chin to chest coming up, holding that upper ab curls, you extend those legs, keep that lower back in the ground, open, close, bring those knees back in, try to lift a little higher, and then roll back down. And then again, taking that nice big inhale in, exhale, chin to chest coming up, extend those legs, open, close, draw those legs back in, try to lift a little bit higher, coming back down. As you come back down, making sure that knees are still over hips, that you don't let them collapse in, right? And what I'm finding, just having to hold that tabletop and being honest with it, is actually being a good challenge for my core. Without wibble wobbling in my lumbo-pelvic area. That means my lumbar spine or my lower back and my pelvis. We don't want any rocking and rolling there. We have one more of these. Nice. Letting those legs find the ground, we're going to kind of come up to a modified teaser. So I do find with this one, actually kind of stepping your feet slightly away from your sits bones is a little bit easier, but play with that distance as you go. You might find that you need to be either tucked in or a little bit further away. I'm going to have you flip your palms over so they're facing the ceiling. And we're just basically going to come up to a V-sit. So taking a nice big inhale in, exhale, chin to chest. And again, if you find that sticking point, always grab those thighs and work through it instead of try to toss yourself through it. Coming up, and then just rolling back down. So I'm going to think about trying to keep my spine as tall as I can as I scoop those abdominals down. And then truly try to articulate each individual vertebra all the way down. And again, nice big inhale in, exhale. Coming up. And then thinking about trying to find the length in your spine as that belly button pulls in through your abdominals to your spine. It's almost like your abdominals are pushing you down instead of gravity pulling you down. Let's go for two more. Nice big inhale in, exhale, chin to chest. And nice big inhale in, exhale, lower back down. You know, I think I said two more, but I'm going to switch it up because I got really excited. I'm moving along. Variation on a theme. So we're just going to now do a single leg. You can always stay with the double leg. So I'm going to take that right leg, I'm going to reach it long, same principle. You're going to take a nice big inhale in, exhale. So my leg is in line with the other femur as I roll up. Should be a little extra challenge. Once you're there, right, you should be in a V-sit. You're going to switch legs. You're going to switch legs again. And then you're gonna roll down. Nice. Right leg finds the ground. Now we're just gonna do it to the left side. So left leg is reaching long. Taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, chin to chest. Rolling up. Woo! A little bit harder on the side for me. And then switch. And switch. And if for some reason this is too much, just go back to both legs being bent. That's okay. Let's see if I can actually tell the truth this time. We're gonna do one more to each side. So back to our right side, taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale. Lengthening up. Finding that V-sit. Shoulders are relaxed. You're gonna switch. Switch. Lowering back down. And left leg reaches long. One last of these little upper ab variations, upper ab curl variations. Now we're going to do some bridges. And switch, switch, taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, really pull yourself down with your abdominals. Nice. Hands can go down to the ground. They can go back to palm being down. And we're going to do our little figure eight bridges. And I'm just going to rotate this way so you can kind of see the figure eight that my hips are doing. So you want to think about your hip bones, these little bony protrusions. They'll kind of help you with this. So taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, coming up into that bridge. I'm going to think about that right hip bone. And it's going to kind of dip down to the ground. It's going to kind of push to the right, and then it's going to lift up to the ground. So I'm making one half of the figure eight. Then I'm going to think about the left side, mirroring it. So we're kind of going down, out, up, down, out, up, down, out, up. So it should kind of feel a little loosey-goosey in your lower back and your hips. And let's go for 5. And 4. And 3. And 2. Last one. Finding that nice neutral pelvis. Finding those nice high hips and then parallel femurs. My femurs do not like to go parallel. Oh, those tight quads. Taking a nice big inhale and exhale, thinking about articulating down through that spine. So heavy through the back of those shoulder blades, the back of the ribs, almost like something's pushing your spine down. Oh, back of the waistline, and then let that release as your sacrum finds the ground. I'm checking my cheat sheet here. Ah, hug those knees into your chest and rock and roll yourself up to sitting. All right, spine stretch forward. So sitting up tall, legs are going to be more like hip width. And then if you need to bend legs. If you need to give yourself a pillow or booster seat, go for that. And just as you're sitting here, I do want you to just key into vertical spine. So ear over shoulder, shoulder over rib, rib over hip. Hands out in front of you, letting those shoulders relax. Taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, as you reach forward, I want you to think about your belly getting pulled back. So it's almost like you're playing tug of war with your torso. Taking that nice big inhale at the end, and then exhale, really restack that spine. Right, so my abdominals are pulling to the back wall, and my fingertips and my arms and my chest are pulling towards the front wall. We're gonna go for 3 more. See if you can get a little bit deeper. Another imagery that comes up with this one is this idea of kind of reaching up and over a beach ball. I wish I could go to the beach. Then one more of our spine stretch forward. Nice. Taking this all the way back down to the ground. I know we were just up sitting for a little bit. We're going to take the detour on the way down, so we're going to take our time. So we're rolling down, but we're going to stop and pulse along the way. So taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, really thinking about scooping those abdominals. You're going to get down to kind of, not even the top of your pelvis is touching. And you're going to pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a nice big inhale in. Exhale, lower down to the top of your pelvis and your waistline, but your ribs are still lifted. And you're going to stop there and pulse again for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a nice big inhale in. Exhale, roll down so your shoulder blades are still lifted, but you're kind of weighted through the back of your ribs. And you're going to pulse again for 10, 9, 8, 7, like you're folding right at the base of those ribs or right at your bra line. For 4, 3, 2, 1, and then roll all the way down. Nice. Adjusting, we're going into single leg bridge. We're going to start with both feet down. So taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, really thinking about pulling that pubic bone up into your ribs. Thinking about your shoulders now becoming a base of support. So nice wide shoulders. They're almost pressing into the ground, but they're not pinching together. We're going to take that right leg and we're going to reach it up to the ceiling, wherever it goes. So it's okay if it's slightly bent. That's okay. And then we're going to really articulate through our feet as we point and flex for 5 and 4. A lot slower than what we do in strength class. 3, 2, 1. Then we're going to circle one way. We're going to circle, and again, really articulating through that foot for 3. We're going up to 4. We're going to 5. This is 4. And then switch 5 in the other direction for 5, 4, 3. I'm getting some snap, crackle, pops. 2, 1. Taking that foot, really reaching to the ceiling. Thinking about that left heel digging into the ground. Gonna get that left hip nice and high. Now put that right leg down. And then articulate through that spine all the way down. Really trying to feel each individual vertebra kind of push into the ground. And then release. And then just switching it over to the other side, we're rolling up with 2 legs down, taking a nice big inhale in. Exhale, scooping those abdominals. Finding those nice level hips, right? It's almost like my hip bones are pulling up into my ribs. Taking that left leg, reaching it long, and then really articulating through that foot as you point and flex for 5, and 4, and 3, 2, last 1, circle one way for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, circle the other way for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Energy through that left leg. Really feel that right butt cheek squeezing, right heel driving down, wide shoulders. Now that left leg can find the ground. Taking a nice big inhale in, and then exhale, really articulating down through the spine. Nice. All right, on your side. On your side, on your side. Clams, variation. So knees are slightly bent there in front of you. And again, this is never actually it's not a relaxed position. You're not just hanging out on the floor. You're always lifting that bottom waistline, stacking those hips. Taking that top knee, lifting as high as you can, keeping those hips stacked. So I don't want to see anybody roll back in those hips. Keeping that knee in space, bringing your ankle up to meet it. Ankle stays in space, knees touch. Knee comes back up, ankles touch, or heels. So we're going for knee and heel, and knee and heel. For 7, and 6, and 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, last one. Nice. Let that knee come down, and then we're just going to adjust for our bottom leg. So now that top leg can come up. It's just crossing in front wherever it can. Maybe it's down by your ankle. Maybe it's high up. You can always hold on to it. I do want you to think about pressing that thigh away from you, or being anchored through your big toe and your pinky toe and your heel. Free hand, light touch in front of you. Go up to the ceiling. You're going to lengthen that bottom leg as much as you can. You're going to lift and lower for 10. Bottom waistline still lifting. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do little circles. So you're going to circle that leg forward for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch directions for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let that foot find the ground. And then switching on over to the other side, so you can roll on over. I'm just going to flip over so you can still see my shiny smile. All right, so on your side, we're starting with our clams. Knees are in front of you, that bottom waistline's lifted. And it can just be a gentle touch or up to the ceiling. Knee comes up, ankle comes up to meet it, and then we touch our knees together and touch, and then come back up and touch our heels. So many variations. Which one are we doing? And this is going to be 8, knee and heel, 7, and heel, 6, and heel, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Let that leg come down, and then we're just going to readjust for that bottom leg. So this leg's just coming up, thinking about kind of pressing back that thigh, but still anchoring through that big toe joint. Lengthening that bottom leg so much that it lifts off the ground. And you're going to lift and lower for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and circle forward for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other direction for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Let that leg find the ground. And then we're just going to push ourselves up to sitting. So I'm going to bring this bottom knee forward. I'm going to come up to kind of windmill legs. And this one, this leg needs to be in front. This leg kind of needs to be to the side, but we don't need to be 90-90. So sometimes we cue that. We don't need to be in 90-90. So just taking a moment for our hips to now fill this new kind of weird, funky position. If you feel like you're tipping over, just gently put that hand down and lengthen through your spine. And then you're going to focus on this back hip, right? So I'm going to roll this hip back, like I'm trying to get this sits bone down on the ground. And my spine's going to react, so just let your spine react to it. And then I'm going to push this hip forward. So now I'm lifting it, I'm pushing it forward, and then you'll see that my spine kind of reacts and I kind of go into a rotation with it. Now we're just going to rock and roll that hip for about 8 times. And you might find that as you do this, you get a little bit more mobility, hopefully, by the 8th one. Never force anything. So just going to the point of mild discomfort. We're going to go for 2 more of these. Nice, and then just pushing up into a stretch. I did this in my class yesterday. But the hand of the same leg that's in front is going to go down. It's going to be your supporting hand. Your same hand as your back leg is going to swing kind of forward. So it's going to reach forward, and then it's going to start to reach overhead. As it reaches overhead, you're going to thrust those hips forward, and you're going to reach into that back space. Opening up those hips. And then let it come back down. And then we're just going to repeat, thinking about swinging the arm forward, pushing forward those hips. So this is a nice, if you've been sitting a lot, stuck on Zooms, or whatever, this should be a nice opener for all that kind of just sitting work. Or cycling, for a lot of us that are getting out on our bikes. All right. You're going to take this back leg, and I might flip around to show this because it does get a little confusing. You're going to take this back leg, you're going to bring it forward. So now it's kind of like I'm sitting and having a conversation with you, right? So my toe of this back leg is now in front, and it's pointing forward. And the hand that I just was supporting with is still supporting. I'm going to take this free hand, and it's like I'm going to dive all the way through as I come up into like a single arm downward dog, right? So I'm going to take this arm, it goes up. And as it starts to dive under that bottom waistline, I'm going to push through this front heel, that hand, and I'm going to lift that like I'm in a little downward dog, loaded on one foot and one hand. And then I'm going to sit back down. There you go. So this part isn't that important. The dive part is, though. So reaching through that bottom waistline, driving through that front foot, really securing through that hand, and then coming back down. We're going to do one more. We're going to have part B if you want to. If not, you can just hold it. So we're really diving through, thinking about that bottom waistline lifting, supporting through that shoulder, really anchoring through this front heel. If you can, you're going to lift that leg off. And you're going to lift it to the ceiling for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way down. Woo! That actually is a Pilates exercise. I did not make that up. We can thank Joseph for that. All right, pretzel yourself to the other side. You gotta do all those stretches on the other hip. So, I don't think I cued this, but hopefully you guys are on the right leg. Back leg, we're just gonna start with that rocking. So getting that, thinking about sitting the sits bone down and then pushing that forward. You know, I might also find that you have one side that's a lot tighter than the other. I know I do. We're just going to go for 8 of these. And hopefully by the time we get to the 8th one, we can find a little bit more range of motion. Also, if you're really tight at the hip flexors and quads, as you push this hip forward, you might get a stretch. It's okay. Last one. Going into what Augie calls the modern dance stretch. So that arm of the same as the front leg is down for your support. Back arm, back leg arm, let me say that correctly. Swings forward as you reach that back space, you press those hips up. And then sit that butt back down. And repeat, pressing those hips up. And repeat. One last one, and then we're going to go into that funky little downward dog. Dive position, I don't know. So I'm just backing up. I'm kind of right at the edge of my mat. So that back leg swings forward. And you put that foot down, toes are pointing forward. I feel like it's like a weird campfire position. So, hey, what's going on? So free hand is gonna dive underneath that bottom waistline. So we're thinking about driving through that front foot, diving under that waistline, pressing through. And then coming down. And then repeating, really thinking about lifting up that bottom waistline, that belly, as we drive through the two supporting limbs. And then coming back down. And this last one, we're going to go hold, or you can lift that free leg, whatever your body's going to give you today. So really pushing through that heel, supporting through that arm, and you're going to lift that leg up to the ceiling, and you're going to lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come all the way down. Nice. Awesome. All right. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. Rolling onto your bellies. We got to do our swans. We got to do back extension. Joseph Pilates would not be happy if we didn't do back extension. So finding that pubic bone, hip bones anchored into the ground, that belly lifted. Let's do hands underneath shoulders. Taking a nice big inhale in, exhale, really lengthening through the top of the head. Shoulders away from your ears. Taking a nice big inhale in, and then exhale, lower back down. This next one, we're gonna add a part B. So taking a nice big inhale in, exhale, lengthening. It's almost like I'm gonna try to pull myself forward to come up. I'm thinking about folding right at the bottom of that bra line. I'm gonna lift my hands, look, Mom, no hands, and then lower myself back down. We're gonna do 2 more of that variation. So nice big inhale in, exhale, lengthening through the top of the spine. Wide collarbones, picking up those hands, and lowering back down. 1 more. Then we're gonna add a part C. Lifting up those arms, and lowering back down. Okay, here we go. 3 more with a different variation. Nice big inhale in. Exhale, lengthening through the top of the head. Coming up. Lift those hands. Take them out to a T if you can. Hopefully you have space. Take them back like a rabbit. Back out to a T. And lower back down, bringing it back underneath your shoulders. 2 more. Nice big inhale in. Exhale, lengthening. So as I'm doing this, I'm still thinking about anchoring through the front of my pelvis, but I'm pulling in my belly. So this one I find it's really easy for people to kind of push their belly into the ground to support themselves, but you actually want to pull it in. And then out to a giant T. Back in. And lower down. And nice big inhale in. Exhale, lengthen, 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 lengthen. And lifting up. And out to a T. And pulling those arms back. And out to a T. And lower back down. And then just push yourself back into a nice quick child's pose. Oh, yes. And then walking your hands to one side. Now I'm going to focus on kind of grabbing that wrist at the side that's lengthening. Same side hip is pulling back, so I get a little extra side body stretch. And then walking myself to the other side. So again, I'm almost pulling on that wrist to reach that hand away from me as I sit that hip back. And then walk yourself back in. Onto your belly. We have our legs to do for extension. All right, so hand on top of hand, forehead on top of your hands. Again, that hip bones down. But you are trying to bring your legs as close together as you can, still maintain that, right? And that's going to change depending on how tight you are anteriorly. You're going to think about that belly pulling in to help support your lower back, and you're going to lengthen those legs so much they lift off the ground. So you're trying to get your femurs off the ground. And then lower back down. And lifting. This time you're going to keep your legs lifted. Your left leg is going to go out to the side. and back. My right leg's not moving or counterbalancing. We're gonna go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let those legs come down. And then we have the other side, right? So hip bones down, belly lifted, lengthening through those legs, and then moving out to the side for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. And then push back into another quick child's pose. I'm just gonna peek to see what time it is. Okay, I have 5 minutes. Nice. All right, we did corkscrew last week, but we're gonna continue on with that. So I'm just showing this way so you can kind of see what's going on with my pelvis. We're gonna let's start with the modified corkscrew that we did last week, and then if you want to, you can do the full corkscrew. If you want to stick with the modified, you can. So you're gonna be on your back, your legs are gonna be up to the ceiling. If you have tight hamstrings, you can always go for bent legs, and you can always go for tabletop. I really want you to think about keeping big toe knuckles together, ankles together, knees together, and inner thighs together. And as I tilt my legs to the side, my opposite hip comes up. So if my legs are going to the right, my left hip is up. I'm going to take those legs away from me. I'm heavy through my belly. Lower back is in the ground. I'm going to take them to the other side and come back. And then switch over to the other side. Just going back the way you came. We're going to do 2 more to each side. Really, really, really keep those legs glued together. That's going to help protect your lower back. Especially with lifting that opposite hip. 1 more to each side. So here I'm really concentrating as I send those legs away, that I'm heavy, heavy, heavy through that lower back. Think of those pelvic tilts that we started with at the beginning of class. All right, legs can come down. If you want to, you can go for the full corkscrew, and you're gonna watch first though. So, this one you're gonna wanna have hands down by your sides. Legs are still gonna start up to the ceiling. They're gonna move away from you. They're gonna toss over your head. Right? I'm going to move my legs over to my right shoulder. I'm rolling down the right back body, which is going to take us to where we just were. This should look familiar, right? That's where we just were. Send those legs away, come over to the other side, and then toss them over my left shoulder. And then I just go back the way I came. So, you can either do the full corkscrew like I just showed, or just repeat the modified ones that we just did. So for the full corkscrew, you're going to have your hands down by your sides, legs up. Again, they can be bent. They don't have to be straight. Send them away. Think of a nice exhale as you toss them up and over. Shift them over to the right side. You're going to think about that left hip staying high, reaching for the ceiling, as you roll down the right back body. Left hip is lifted. Anchor through both hips as you go through center, and then roll up, peel up on the other side. Then rolling down the left side back body. Right hip stays high. Send those legs away. And up and over on the right side. Now we're going to repeat for a total of 3 to each side. If you're doing the modified version, just keep on going. Both are beneficial. And I will also say that your shoulders, your triceps do work in this. Don't think that they don't. They help stabilizing you, as well as your core. One more, you're doing great. Last thing that we're doing. And if you're not going my pace, that's okay. Take your time. Be careful with it. Be very diligent about the movement. Nice. Hug those knees into your chest when you're done. I'm just rotating. You don't have to. And then I just want you to find a spot on the ground and just take a moment, now that you did your work, to let that body just sink into the ground. I just want you to do a quick body map. I want you to feel, starting at the bottom of your body, the heels in the ground. Where's the pressure? Is it on the outside? Is it center? Is it on the inside? Don't adjust. I just want you to pay attention. Traveling up that leg, where does your calf touch the ground? Are you holding tension in your feet or your quads or your hamstrings? Continuing to travel up the leg. Does your upper leg touch the ground anywhere? Or is it elevated? Is one leg rotated more than the other? Is one parallel, one turned out? Feeling the heaviness in the pelvis. How is your pelvis laying on the ground? Are you even? Are you heavier on one side? Traveling up your spine. You should have a little arc in your lower back. That's what neutral spine is. That's pretty natural. But filling that open space and then traveling up to the ribs. Heaviness through the back of the ribs. How do those shoulder blades feel on the mat or your carpet or whatever you're on? Is one shoulder higher than the other? Does it feel like it's creeping up to your ear? And then traveling down your arms. What are your arms doing? Are they naturally open, palms up? Are they thumbs up? Did you put them palm down? Are you holding tension in your fingers, your shoulders? Traveling up to your head. Again, you should feel a little lift behind your neck. That's the natural curve of your spine. You should feel heaviness in the back of your head. And then check me in about those facial muscles. How's your jaw? Is it clenched? Are you holding tension there? You're holding tension in your cheeks or your eyeballs, in your ears, trying to let that be heavy into the ground. And then just taking a moment, let your arms float up to the ceiling. Grabbing a hold of one wrist, and then you're just going to pull yourself opposite of that wrist. So you're going kind of into a side banana. And then maybe you pull yourself the other way into your other side banana. And then you go out to a giant star, really thinking about those fingertips reaching away, those heels reaching away. Lower back and arch. And then let that release. And then one more giant star, really thinking about 5 limbs full of energy, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head. Reach, 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 reach. And let that relax. Nice. You're done. Go out and soak up the sun. Go for a walk. Go for a bike ride. I don't know what else you can do. I don't think you can hike yet. I think it's all still snowing. But good to see everybody. Thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.